First of all, introducing our challenger.
Out of the blue corner.
He's going to step in and he does. It's all over.
Let's bring on the boom.
This is Eternal MMA.
All right, everyone. Thank you for joining us here today for what is a very special edition here on Eternal Insiders. As you can see, we are presently being joined by our former Eternal MMA lightweight champion and now UFC athlete set to make his debut at UFC 312 at the Kudos Bank Arena in Sydney, New South Wales. You already know who it is. One of Luistro Combat Academy's finest, one of Perth WA's favourite sons. Quillan Salkilld back here on the podcast for what seems like the absolute millionth time, but I'd have him 2 million times on the podcast as long as I can get him back. So it's always a pleasure here, man. Obviously, we just had a little bit of a chat off camera. It's good to see you, mate, but we're getting close to this UFC debut, man. I'm so excited for you, mate. How are things in general for you, man? This is a very exciting time.
Yeah, things are, picking up. I can feel the intensity in the air. It's coming up the last, week and a bit of camp, so we're reaching the final stages, and yeah, at this point I'm ready just to get there and to get this show on the road. I just want to perform. I'm done with training at the moment. I'm sick of it. I got to get on the flight, go over there, and I'm ready to fight now.
You put in the hard yards, brother.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
UFC athlete, and we just said that at the top of the show, like calling you a UFC athlete now, man. Like you've probably heard that out loud a few times, but how good does that feel to just hear out like loud, like Quillan Salkilld, UFC athlete? It's got to be cool.
That is very cool. Yes, yeah. Every time I hear it, it's it gives me a warm feeling. This is the thing I've been working towards since 2018. Now that I'm here, now I get to start the road and start climbing up the ladder of the rankings.
You getting treated any differently around town, around campus and that sort of thing now that you're a UFC athlete? Is there a bit more, love, a bit more appreciation afforded to you now that, you've moved on to the big show?
Maybe a little bit, but nothing really noticeable. I don't go out and about anyway. I just go to the gym and, at the gym I get treated the same, They
probably keep you humble, right? They keep you in check.
Yeah. Everyone keeps me in check, making sure I'm, getting roasted still. So, it's, it's all love at Luistro's.
I've no doubt you wouldn't have it any other way though, man.
Yeah, I love it. It keeps everything the same as it's always been. So yeah, I'm happy with my surroundings.
No, I mean, we've been talking now for probably a couple of years now, man, since like having you on the pod for like, it's been both like such a short amount of time and what seems like just a long amount of time kind of all compressed into one. Like I'm sure that feeling is like, tenfold for you given the journey and sort of where you're at now. But let's sort of go back and talk a little bit about first your Contender Series experience. Because we didn't actually catch up. We caught up before your Contender Series experience. We haven't chatted since, have we?
I don't think
so.
No.
Yeah. But like Contender Series experience, man, obviously, for people watching, obviously most people that would know you would know that how you're getting to UFC debut because you won your Contender Series fight against Gage Young in a fantastic decision win. Just overall, man, like that Contender Series experience, but not just the fight, but just everything involved, like traveling over, being there, like seeing the Apex, like meeting Dana White. Like, can you even just sort of sum up just what that experience is like for you? Like how sort of different is it from, everything you sort of do here, like fighting for Eternal and going over and seeing, what they do in the big leagues?
Oh man, I absolutely loved it. I loved the whole process of, flying across the world and getting ready to compete on like even though it's like Contender Series, still like it's a big stage. Yeah. Even though when you're actually competing in there, there's no one around. So in the moment, it doesn't really feel like it, but it is a big stage and a big opportunity. And I love the pressure behind it. Like I knew I consider that like my one shot to to go out and shine and perform and earn a contract. And I ended up pulling through. So that to me, that's what I live for. These big moments of you're standing in the cage and it's like it's a big moment. I love that.
Was there a particular moment for you, like either like during the flight over there or even just like walking up to the Apex where it just kind of like really dawned on you and you had like a moment of like, holy shit, like this is this is for the rest of my life right here? Like, was there like walking to the cage, like rocking up in the USA? Like, was there a moment that you can recall where that sort of happened in your mind?
Walking to the Octagon, I remember, because it's like a big build up.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's you're standing like right. So I was first to walk out. You're standing right at the doors.
Yeah.
TV playing with like the intro, and it's like hyping it up, and I'm like getting all hyped up, about to walk out, and then you like push open the doors, and it's just like eerie like silence, like, or like you hear like claps of like of supporters, but it's nothing like, obviously, like competing at HBS Stadium at Eternal, it's like that's a big event.
Yeah.
And then this is like, you know, it's UFC, but it's like so enclosed, and it's weird how eerily like silent it is.
Like you're on show kind of thing, like you're on display, like.
Yeah, you're walking out, and it's like nothing much is going on, and it's just like, oh yep, just walking in there to step into the cage, and it's just like a few people just yelling out, and it's like, oh, this is, to me, that was like weird. You know, I want a big crowd to watch, to cheer or boo, whatever it is. I like the bit of atmosphere. I think I shine better under that circumstance.
Yeah, well, I mean, you get that opportunity coming up at UFC 312, man. So, I mean, we've got that to look forward to. But I can't even imagine, like, you know, coming from, you know, because you fight for Eternal, right? And like you said, like fighting in Perth, Western Australia, what was formerly the HBF Stadiums, now something different, not the HBF Stadium in Perth, Western Australia. But damn it all, it was when you were there and the champion. Coming out to those crowds and like massive shows, like, you know, in a regional setting, and then going over to like fight for the UFC, but not quite in the UFC, and like having no crowd there, like it must be such like kind of a jarring experience. Like you'd be forgiven for sort of being like kind of put off by it, but if we talk about that, even that performance against, it was Gage Young, I believe his name was. I know a lot of fighters are, even in their best performances, can be quite critical of themselves, like after the performance. But you got the win done in emphatic fashion. Like, you know, we're so far removed from that fight now. I think, what was it, back in September of last year or whatever the month might have been. Like, how do you sort of feel now that you sort of look back at the performance and what your assessment is of it all these months on?
Yeah, straight after the fight, my initial thought was I was, you know, quite pissed off with myself. I thought I could have done better, and you know, everyone kept coming up after me saying like, well, how, you know, great of a fight it was, and I was, you know, kind of thinking like, really, like you really think that? And it wasn't until I actually watched it afterwards. Once I got home, and you know, actually watched the fight back. That was the moment when I was like, oh, it was a good fight. Like, yeah, I actually did some like nice things, and I don't know, I was quite actually happy with my performance. It was just, I think there was a few mistakes that kind of stuck in my mind, like straight after the fight that I did. Some like the obvious ones, just some dumb shit, and then you know, I was quite just like, you know, unhappy with that stuff. But you know, overall, I'm actually quite happy with how I performed. You know, it was you know, kind of like having you know, a good hard fight like that, quite back and forth, and you know, especially with a moment like that, it was, you know, very high pressure. Everything's on the line. You know, you're coming into round 3 when you're both beating each other up, and it's who's got, you know, a bit more in them to, you know, to pull through with the win.
Yeah, I mean, like coming into the fight, do you sort of have like an internal monologue as to, obviously first and foremost you want the win, right? Because like it's a win on your record. It's a chance to get in the UFC. You also want to make sure that you're doing things intelligently, mixing the martial arts and making sure you're getting the job done. But there's also, you know, we know the reputation of Dana White's Contender Series in that they don't sign just absolutely everybody that gets the win. Like they want to see entertainment. They want to see big finishes. Like, so you're trying to juggle that in your mind. Like, man, like I've got to put on a show here, but I've also got to make sure I've got to do the right things to get the win. Is there a balancing act in that situation?
Yeah, but yeah, it was like that. I was thinking like, got to be obviously entertaining, but I did trust in myself that my performance would be, you know, entertaining in itself. Like I did trust in my ability that, you know, no matter what, it's going to be, you know, it's going to be a good fight, and you know that it was. And you know, it does take 2 to tango. So you know, hats off to my opponent as well. You know, we got to push each other in that fight and make it a really, you know, really entertaining scrap.
No, I mean, I think like in that, man, like I think it was there was so many aspects of that fight where it was just very classic Quillan Salkilld, because you are very much known, especially around these parts and soon to be known around the world, as, like, it sounds like a cliche, but just mixed martial arts so well. Like, there's been so many examples already in your short professional career where you show how competent, how elite you are on the feet and on the ground, and be able to sort of transition from kind of one to the other. And you just really sort of showed what you were about in sort of all facets. So, you know, the knockouts are nice and the big subs are nice, but I mean, putting on a complete performance and showing that you can go a full hard 3 rounds, and we've seen you go a full hard 5 rounds in a championship fight, mind you. I think it was sort of the perfect way to sort of show what you're all about, because we certainly know you're a finisher, and I'm sure a lot of that is to come. But even just you get the win, and you're sitting there waiting in anticipation. Like, what's kind of going through your mind, waiting to see if you kind of get the call? Were you supremely confident, unsure, and then what was that moment kind of like when you hear your name get called and say you're a UFC athlete?
Yeah, well, when I was sitting there waiting, I remember my confidence did grow as I would, you know, get the contract. When I, you know, after we finished the fight, I walked past Dana, and you know, I did yell out, I did tell him, what I say? I said that I pretty much said I belong in the UFC, so like sign me, like pretty much along the lines. And he replied with, I don't disagree with you.
All right.
And I was like, oh, okay, that's a you know, that's a good note. And then when I got the post-fight doctor check, I remember Sean Shelby come into the room, like to check up. And then when he was leaving, I told him to put in a good word, you know, to Dana for me.
Smart.
And he was like, you don't need to worry about that. Well, I don't think you need to worry about that. And I was like, okay, this is a good sign. Like,
I was going to say, because
time,
with Dana saying, like, I don't disagree with you, like, I mean, look, I'm not there to hear that, but it sounds like, okay, is there a caveat to that? Like, I don't disagree with you, but, like, is that...
Yeah, exactly. I was like, oh, it's not like 100% sure, but I'm like, you know, it's growing. This was straight up. This is when I hadn't watched the fight back, and when I was still, like, you know, semi-disappointed with it. So I was like, you know, the feelings were a bit low at that point, and then they started to build, and then when we're actually in the back sitting and waiting, it was just, yeah, I was still on the higher end of thinking, yeah, I'm gonna get signed. So I was still, you know, I was in a good mood, and they, you know, they put out a good spread of cookies for me to gorge on after the fight. So I had a good, you know, post-fight refill with about 3 cans of Coke and about I think 6 or 7 cookies I think I had straight away. So that was probably the best part, actually.
Nice, man. Yeah, that's the capital experience of the entire thing, man. Is like getting to enjoy some of that nice food afterwards. You deprived yourself of for so long in the lead up.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I just smashed it. Everyone was surprised with how many, you know, the cookies I put down.
Yeah, I
ended up getting sick though, but worth it.
Yeah, I mean, because your body hasn't had that for so long, and all of a sudden you're stuffing yourself with it, man. Like, you know, I don't think you reach any like Paddy Pimblett levels of, like, you know, blowing yourself up. But I mean, you know, just the deprivation of all that.
Not at that level yet. Not yet.
Not yet?
Get there. I'll get there.
Watch this space. All right, we'll watch this space. Nice. Now, I have no doubt the whole experience just must have been incredible for you, man. And then hearing that you're being signed, you get a bit of downtime after that, of course, coming back home, and then it's just a matter of like waiting, right? Like, do you get any indication, like, from the brass in terms of what they're thinking when they might get you in for your debut, or do you just get told, go home, we'll sort of call you? Like, when do you first start hearing rumblings that there's an idea for when you might make your debut?
Yeah, well, we're trying to get one towards the end of last year. Like, I did want to have my debut roughly like November, December would have been ideal.
Yeah.
But at that time, all of the spots for the last remainder of the cards of the year were like filled up. So we pretty much heard back saying that there's, you know, for 2024 there was going to be no more. Like, there's nothing left. And then it wasn't even long after then we got matched for this card. So it's actually been a long wait for this card and for UFC 312, because, you know, I found out a long time ago, and, you know, it seems like an eternity now. And I think I was probably one of the first, you know, 1 or 2 fights matched on that card. So it feels like it's been forever, to be honest.
Yeah, it feels like I've been staring at your black and white image on Google for the UFC card forever. Yeah. It was just you. It's like, you know, because they just say, like, when they don't actually put the whole card together, it says main event, Quillan Salkilld. And you're like, yeah. Like, it just
yeah. It was for a minute, eh?
Yeah, who knows, man? Anything can happen.
312.
100%, brother.
Ready.
What was that moment like finding out that it's all real? There is a confirmed date. Like how do you find out? Is it Jazz that first tells you? Your manager, of course. Like when do you find out? And like who tells you? And what was that like?
Yeah, it was amazing. I mean, it was one morning. I knew something was up. Jasmine messages me saying, like, are you free for like FaceTime?
Yeah.
She's over some. Where was she? She was in Bali or something. She was actually on like a little holiday, and then so she calls me like on a Zoom, and then there's Ramel as well there. So there's all three of us on a Zoom, and I knew something was up. I was like, okay, we got something. And then she spills the beans and tells us, and then it was just it was wicked.
It must have felt like a completely surreal experience, man. Like, especially because you must have been like anticipating it for so long. Like, when is this kind of coming? How am I going to find out?
I was just waiting. Like every morning, I'm just like, come on, hopefully Jazz is telling me I got something. And then finally one morning, I was,
God, that must be a mental drain. Like, I'm getting a little bit sort of sidetracked here, but I mean, like, if you do any other sport, like if you play professional basketball, hockey, football, cricket, anything, when your schedule is. Like, in advance. You're not sitting around waiting when's it going to happen. Like that must be like, must like take a bit out of you, man, especially for your debut, like just every day, and then you go into bed, like didn't find it today.
Because I'm so keen. I was like, come on, just give me something. Like I wanted something for last year, but see, that didn't happen. And then when Cody got his debut before me.
You?
He got it like that few weeks after. And I was like, come on, give me one. Then I didn't get one. It would have been alright if they give me one last year.
Yeah.
They didn't. So I'm like, Cody's one up on me.
He is.
Yeah.
But I mean, obviously.
Beat me in the Contender series and for the debut. Both by by a little bit. But
just by a little bit. I don't know. So maybe you feel like because you're on the same card here, maybe you just got to feel like you got to outdo him with your performance for this one, man. But
it's he better not steal 50K bonus off me.
The story within the story, man, right here.
If I have a great performance, which I'm sure I will, and then he has to one up me, and he takes the 50K bonus,
See what's going on. What's going on here is because he's obviously he fights after you, so he's in the advantageous position where he gets to see what you do, and then he's like, all right, I've got to one up that. So like he's kind of got the advantage here. So you got to do something special, brother.
He just needs to jab and he just needs to take down and just lie on top of him for 3 rounds. That's it.
That's the secret advice.
Win a mediocre decision, please. Just sit on top, just lay in side control, squeeze for 3 minutes for 3 fives, and then that's it.
I love it, man. No, I know it's
I'll get the knockout.
You get the knockout, brother. You take home the money. No, I know it's obviously all a friendly, healthy rivalry competition within the gym, of course, and what a tight knit little team it is. Even just like anticipating this event, man. Like I'm sure you've like played it over and over in your head. You've been to UFC events before, and you've seen people I'm sure like make their debuts, make the walk, and that sort of thing. You probably talk to countless people like that you might have known from Eternal, or you just know from Australian MMA or otherwise that have made the walk. Like are you just playing over and over in your head like what that's going to be like to walk out into the crowd for the first time? Like how do you sort of keep yourself from kind of getting like overhyped? I know you're very level headed, but do you kind of have to keep that a little bit sort of in check? Like how do you sort of feel about that?
I let it take control.
Good. All right.
I do. Always,
get it out now.
On the way to training.
Yeah.
Listening to some music. I might be playing what I think my walkout song will be. And, I'm envisioning like
bashing
walking
on the steering wheel as you go to the gym. Like
then I turn into a crazy driver on the road, start speeding, overtaking everyone. I'm like, just let it take over.
That's probably smart, man, because like by the time that you actually get there, because you played it like so many times in your head, it's going to kind of feel like a little bit like you've already done it before, and it'd be maybe just a little bit less daunting. So I think you're onto something, mate.
Like a bit of visualization, so it's not going to be as unfamiliar territory as as it will be. So yeah.
Obviously this is in Sydney, New South Wales. You're from Perth, Western Australia. Fought numerous times, of course, for Eternal MMA in Perth, Western Australia. The UFC has frequented Perth, Western Australia, and continues to do so. Any real disappointment from your end that your debut's not in Perth, or is it just good enough that, hey, it's Sydney, it's Australia, it's a home game anyway?
Yeah, Perth would have been like at the top, that would have been perfect. But yeah, this is Sydney's close to perfect, so it's gonna be wicked being there. Still home soil, so
still home soil. I mean, like a lot of people make their debuts, like your teammate in the UFC Apex. You get to make yours in a pay-per-view, man. Like that. That's something, right? That's like cool. Home soil.
Yeah. Yeah, it's wicked.
Fighting against, and I actually don't care if I'm pronouncing his name properly, but look, for the sake of the fight, Anshul Jubli, fighter out of India. I don't know how many Indian fighters there are on the UFC roster. Maybe he's the only one. Same record as you from what I believe, 7-1, 30 years of age. He's already fought twice in the UFC. Lost his last fight via knockout, albeit I think to an opponent that was like 5 pounds over. What do you know about him? What are you anticipating? Like, studied him, prefer not to look? Like, what do you sort of know about your opponent?
Yeah, I've watched his last 2 fights, mainly when he won the Road to UFC tournament and his actual, like, UFC debut. He
won that tournament. Right, okay.
Yeah, he won
I knew he fought on it.
Tournament.
Okay, I think
it was the one before, when I went
you're supposed to be on,
to do that, went to be on that, like, not like an exhibition bout, but like, a non-tournament bout.
Yep.
I think he won the season before.
Okay.
That. And then, so I've watched that fight, or watched those 2 fights mainly of his. I don't like to watch, like, stuff that's, like, too old. It's, like, kind of outdated.
Makes sense.
So I've got a bit of an idea of what his, style is like and what he's going to, his strengths that he's going to bring to the table. Yeah, he trains out of a gym in Bali called Soma. We actually know the guys. We know Mike, who's the coach there. We went over to we didn't see Anshul, but when we went over to Bali for that, we had like a 1 week, like Craig Jones and Joseph Chen, like jiu-jitsu, like camp at Bali MMA. We just went to Soma every day because they have like a restaurant, little like cafe inside the gym. We just had lunch there every day and just chatted to Mike. So we know the kind of know some of the team where he trains out of, and I think it's going to be a wicked fight. The only thing I think is just I'm going to bring far more tools to the table than he is. I think he's going to have some tidy prowess on the feet with the kickboxing stuff, but I think when we start mixing in the grappling, that's where I'm going to really shine and I'm going to start to take over when we get into those grappling exchanges. I think he's going to start to fade away.
As a famous man once said, I'm not going to disagree with you because we certainly know what your pedigree is, man, in terms of a very complete mixed martial artist. So much of that you've shown off so early in your career and like not even anywhere close to like the peak of what your abilities could be. Still just 25 years? Are you still like 25, 26, 25? Sure
turned 25.
Just turned 25. Like, oh my God, like it's just, not to blow smoke up your ass, man, but I mean, just the level of your game right now for your youth is just incredible, mate. So we know you're going to get the job done and we know you're going to pretty much get it however you want. And if that means that you're going to beat from pillar to post, from bell to bell and mix the martial arts as you do, you'd be a silly man to bet against that, man. So just out of curiosity, is a funny one that actually I was looking, I was just getting curious about the bloke because I hadn't heard of him prior to his fights, but did you see MMA Guru's like breakdown of his last fight at all? Like, it was like that was wild, man. I was like watching some of that. There was a little bit of spiciness in terms of classic MMA Guru fashion. Like, look, my viewership of his podcast is very love-hate with that bloke, but I find myself like hating him, but I'll watch his friggin' videos for like 25 minutes. But that was a funny little breakdown.
It was pretty funny, yeah.
Yeah. Good value, brother. Good value. So. Yeah, maybe that kind of humanized him a little bit. Not that you need that, mate, because we're coming in for the win. It's very exciting. Obviously, we mentioned you're fighting on the card with your teammate, Cody Haddon. We mentioned, obviously, Jazz before. She gave the phone call. Jazz, of course, from Addict Sports, of course, who you're represented by. This is kind of like a little family, I guess you'd sort of say. Like, you guys have all kind of really come together. Like, it's not like, you got sort of cherry-picked and signed to a world-leading, like established kind of like representation company. Like, you guys are just doing such big things like all together. You've always talked glowingly about Jazz. Like the interactions that I've had with Jazz have always been phenomenal. Like, she's so professional. Like, she's just such a hard worker. I don't think I've ever spoken to or met anyone that's just like so on like every little detail of everything. And I know you and the team have spoken about this at large. I think like the couple of phone calls I even had with Jazz, like, she's in the car and she's like rushing to something. She's going back across like town, like just doing sort of so many things. Like how is this? Because not everyone gets this experience. Like a lot of the time it's just you out of the gym and a manager. But I mean, you've got Jazz, you've got Cody, you're fighting together in this card, fighting out your small gym with Romel Luistro, who is your coach. People are going to find out about how great a coach Coach Romel Luistro is once you're firmly established in UFC. Like, what's this kind of like for you doing this all together, coming up together with these people all at the same time?
It's fucking cool, to be honest. Like, it is like our own little gym family. Like, say inside the gym is like Romel and Jazz is like, the gym mum and dad, and then Cody and I like brothers. And we're just, and it's like all together. Like that's our gym family, really. And yeah, I don't think anyone does it like Jazz. Like sometimes I think she's nuts. She's just so. I say if she had a line of coke, she'd take over the world. I don't think she has any caffeine or anything. She's just freaking.
It's all natural,
all over the place. She's so busy. I don't know how she does it. I could never do it. I have so much respect for her. Like. Some people can just do that job and just handle as many things that she needs to handle. Like, I could never do that. I'd be the worst person at that job. I like to just I'm just going to do one thing. That's it. She can do a million things at once. She's the best at that. That's why she does her job so well. And, she truly does care about, not just myself, Cody and Ron, but like everyone, at the gym, the whole gym itself. She's such a great person, and I'm super lucky to have come into contact with her and have her looking out for me.
We just talked about Coach Romel Luistro there, like obviously so pivotal to your career development. Obviously coming into the UFC now, him being able to represent himself and the gym and his fighters on the biggest stage in the world. What is the best thing in terms? I know this is a very sort of broad question that you could sort of answer with a few different strokes, but like what is it about Coach Romel Luistro that is just so vital to your success?
It's the way he's taken care of me and taken me under his wing since day one. Like I remember I've probably known him for properly for a week, actually properly training under him. And we went to a show here, a fight show in Perth. And I hung out with him afterwards. And I remember he took me out to dinner with him, talking about MMA. And then I remember, this is late. This is now 12, 1 a.m. And then we're sitting in his car before going home, and he chats to me for I swear 2 hours. Just chewing my ear off about MMA, just giving me the rundown of everything. And I wanted to actually get out of that car, but I was too shy to be I want to go home now. Just chatting my ear off. But
just an overload on the senses.
Yeah. Oh man, I was getting tired, and it was just I wasn't even listening halfway through. He can chat forever, especially when it comes to MMA. Yeah. Oh, but it was at that moment when I knew this would be a great coach, and I was right. So I stuck with him. I followed him around, and did everything that he said, and here we are now. I love to see the changes where we come from. I remember my very first fight camp was out of his back shed.
Yeah.
Just a few of us in a shed during the winter. We had to lock the doors. And so all the steam and no ventilation, so it just turned into a massive steam room. We're all just rolling, sparring there.
God.
That was very first fight prep.
Nice.
And then opened up the gym, changed locations, and now we got a big, strong fight team now. And now we're in the we've got UFC guys now, so we're just skyrocketing now. And I love to see the change from where we started to where we are now.
It's an incredible feel-good story, man. Like we said, hats off to yourself, Cody, the team, Jazz, Coach Romel Luistro. Just big things happening in Perth, Western Australia. Just your guys' little city out of the way of everything else. Just the hotbed of MMA right now, and you guys with your little gym just like really coming to the forefront of that to be the next like truly great representatives of not just Australian MMA, but like Perth, Western Australia and everything, man. Because I know how, how much you guys like to put on for your city and put on for WA. I personally love WA. I've made that very clear from all the times that I've done the podcast. It's where it's at, man. It's where it's at. And without looking too far beyond this, like I know you would be, you'd be very much anticipating being able to fight the biggest stage in the world in Perth, Western Australia at the RAC Arena, I believe it is. That'd be certainly very cool. But obviously for this one, this is a debut. Like speaking of Perth, we've got a large contingent of fans coming across, family, I'm assuming, friends. Like, have we got a large turnout coming out for the combat, the Louis Street Combat Academy team? Yeah,
there'll be some. You're gonna hear some extra, cheers in the crowd from the LCA family.
Let's go
for sure.
Yeah, mum and dad coming over. I'm assuming staying home watching.
Yeah,
beautiful, man.
Yeah.
That must be exciting, man, because I know they've been there for like all of your fights and that sort of thing. So to be able to like, that must just give you like such an extra buzz, like that you get to make your debut. Here. I'm not too sure if they go over to watch you necessarily USA debut, if that's where it was potentially going to be.
No, they couldn't make it for that one. That was a bit too too far for the time being. Yeah, as well. Yeah, so
cool. But we get it this time around for
this one. They're
312.
Coming.
Hell yeah, man. Hell yeah. Speaking of this card as well, like I'm sure you've seen like a lot of the chatter online. There's just a lot of shit being thrown around by fans for this card due to the sort of the perceived like lack of established like Australian name power. And I think that's like it's kind of a testament to kind of how far we've come in Australian MMA, because we just got so many big names now in Australian MMA that are well and truly established that we're not necessarily seeing on this card. I mean, if you're truly like a fan of Australian mixed martial arts, like especially at this level, like I'm jacked because obviously like, I know a lot of you guys from Eternal, that sort of thing. So that is more than enough for me. Like I'm pumped for it. But like you personally, would have you liked to have seen, like, would have you liked to have made a debut on like a more name rich card, or is it just not even a factor for you? Cause like it's a business trip at the end of the day.
Yeah. It's not a factor for me. Yeah. Just I don't give a shit, I just want to.
Yeah, you're not going there as a fan. You're going there to work.
On a pay-per-view event. This is wicked. This is massive to me. It is. I do see where they're coming from, but I think this is going to be one of them sleeper cards, where it's.
Oh, they always are.
It's not as many big names, right? Like well-established names, but in terms of the performances, I think you're going to see some really high-level stuff, and it's going to be one of them cards where you just don't want to miss. Maybe some people will miss it because they don't, know any of the fighters on the card other than the main couple, but then they're gonna soon to regret missing out.
No, absolutely. You couldn't have. You hit the nail on the head there, man. Like these cards just always turn out to be like absolute bangers. Like how many like random time in the morning like UK fight night cards have we seen, that sort of thing, where they're way better than like the established name like pay-per-views. Like it always seems to happen that the guys that are right at the top, they're trying not to lose something, so the fights end up being a little bit more cagey, but the guys on the come up, they're trying to gain everything, just like yourself. So the fight quality ends up being like absolutely immense, man. So like anyone who's planning on not tuning in for this, like you're going to regret it, because there's just going to be so many quality fights in that card. I mean, we've got like yourself, like one of, I think, 5 fighters coming that have previously at least fought for Eternal. Obviously, we've got Jack Jenkins was our former featherweight champion. You, of course, our former lightweight champion. He's going up against Gabriel Santos. He's Jack Jenkins. We've also got Tom Nolan, also a former lightweight, and we know what a wrecking ball he is going up against. Vyacheslav Borshev, if I'm not butchering his name. Obviously, your teammate Cody Haddon going up against Ilya Toporia's brother in Alexander Topuria. What a cracking fight that's going to be, and what an interesting little kind of tie-in storyline that is for Australian MMA. Obviously, Volk having his fight with Ilya Topuria and everything. Kevin Jusay also has previously fought for Eternal MMA, taking on fellow Australian, well, not fellow Australian, but also Australian fighting on the card in John O'Mikalev. So there's just so much like great representation for Australian MMA, but for Eternal MMA, huge card, man, and so much to look forward to in that regard. I'm not going to ask for any official predictions for you or anything like that, man, but I'm just curious, in your mind for this weekend and everything you sort of visualize, like how does this weekend at large for this fight card turn out perfectly for you? Like winning the fight, the aftermath, the celebrations of winning the fight, like what's it sort of going to take for you to be able to say that was just the absolute perfect weekend from start to finish?
me coming back to Perth with an extra 50K, and that's on top of my my personal win bonus. That would be perfect. So, but yeah, that would be chef's kiss. Mate.
And a few extra cookies.
A few extra, yeah. I'm sure I'll be able to afford it afterwards.
And a bottle of rum with the old man.
Oh yeah, of course. That's yeah. I'm onto the cigars now. So
hey,
it's a bottle of rum and a couple of cigars for the post-fight celebration as well. So we're adding stuff to it.
I want to see at some point in the post-fight celebrations a photo of you in the classic Salkilld, white singlet, the mustache, some rum, cigar, just something classic, because I think this is really becoming the persona.
Salkilld right there, yeah.
Yes.
I'm going to find, providing he wins, I want to find Dricus Duplessis after the fight, and I want to smoke a cigar with Dricus.
Oh man, how good would that be?
I like that guy.
That dude is underrated.
I think he'll win. I'm rooting for him.
Yeah,
I'm rooting for Dricus, but I want to share a cigar with Dricus after the fight. I reckon that'll be cool.
That would be the cherry on top, man. That'd be the cherry on top. I love it. That's a great plan, man.
Yeah.
Last couple before I let you go, mate, and as always, appreciate your time, man. It's always an absolute privilege talking to you. Always giving us the time of the day here on the pod, so it's always very much appreciated. You know that, but 2025, we're not looking too far ahead, but I mean we're at the top of 2025. It's so early. How have you sort of visualized your year sort of going? Like, have you sort of made mental kind of goals, plans, anything like that in terms of how you'd sort of like this year to be, number of fights, any personal things you'd sort of like to achieve? Like, how do you think this is sort of? How do you think UFC 312 is kind of setting yourself up for the rest of the year?
Yeah, well, I want a minimum of 3 fights this year. That's how I like to keep it. 3 to 4 a year is perfect. I only got 2 last year, so a bit under what the schedule is, for what I like. So I want at least 3 to 4 fights this year, and I want to be at the end of the year. I want to be fucking, rich. I want 3 to 4 50K bonuses.
Let's go, baby.
So I want to be, a winner and a rich man by the end of this year.
I like those plans, mate. I'm not going to suggest anything else. That sounds damn good to me. What a fantastic representation you are of Australian mixed martial arts, man. And of course, being our former Eternal MMA lightweight champion, your entire pro career spent with Eternal MMA. I mean, your story just fantastic. Like going on a 6-fight undefeated streak after losing your pro debut, making it obviously 7 in a row once you go on to win your fight at Dana White's Contender Series, obviously capturing the Eternal MMA lightweight strap along the way, defending it twice here while competing for Eternal MMA, only going to the decision once during all that time as well, mind you. Obviously, that decision was in your first title defense against Brett Pastor, in just an absolute masterclass in classic Quillan Salkilld fashion, just dominating from bell to bell and showing off every facet of mixed martial arts, an absolute beatdown. 3 submission wins, I believe, in there too. 2 of those coming against your lightweight rival in Eternal MMA and Don Marfan, and that the second of which obviously being in your second to last title defense for Eternal MMA. And those wins just looking fantastic day by day, mind you, given how much of a tear that Don Marfan is.
Yeah, he's doing well.
Doing incredible.
He better not lose ever again.
Yeah, it's just going to make you look better and better.
Just
I mean, you already look great.
Me.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. I'm the only stain on the record. That's it. You're going to smash everyone else.
No, shout out to him, man. That was some fantastic performance you put on against him, and he's just following in suit. No doubt we'll potentially see him, coming behind you and making his own way there too. But shout out to the fights that you guys had. The couple of the other performances you had too, like 2 KO wins as well. The most impressive of which, in my opinion, obviously came against Blake Donnelly when you first captured the lightweight title. Your 2 knockout wins came in the first round, but impressive as they were. Like your knockout win against Blake Donnelly, man, to capture that lightweight title in just something like 40-something odd seconds. You were just 3-1 at the time in your career, and fans will recall, and you'll certainly recall at that time, a lot of doubters, a lot of detractors. Is this man ready to step up at 3-1 in his career? And my God, you've proved them absolutely wrong, man, because you've rolled through everyone since, captured the lightweight title, gone on to Dana White's Contender Series, won that, and here we are on the footstep of your UFC debut, man. Incredible stuff, all in the space of just 4 short years, almost to the date. Because if we think back to your pro debut in that loss before you went on the streak,
I don't think back to that.
Well, I mean, we can hark back to it, not necessarily reminisce about it, but I mean,
that never happened.
Never happened. We're striking off the record a bit of Sugar Sean O'Malley. 7-0 we are. Well, your pro debut, we'll call it, was made on February 13th, 2021, and this will be on February 9th, 2025 that you go into your UFC debut. So almost 4 years to the day, man. Like we said at the top of the pod, just so much in what seems like a short amount of time, but a long amount of time with so many things like gone by. And here we are for the UFC debut, man. Like one last thing before I let you go, like anything from that run of 4 years that stands out for you, any performances, so many great performances, a lot of knockouts, submissions, wins, a lot of great times, a lot of fantastic representation. Any fond memories that stand out for you during that time?
Yeah, for me, it's always going to be that capturing the title against Blake Donnelly, the knockout win. That was like the perfect way to do it. That was like the next step, really. I was just a regular professional fighter, and then within 30 seconds now I'm the champion of like the biggest organization in Australia. And then I knew from then it's like, all right, not long now until I get to make the next step on Contender Series. Or obviously getting the contract on Dana White's Contender Series is going to be like the best thing ever. But capturing the title is for Eternal, just the way everything went down, of how I captured it, and like the build up, and it was like that felt like a bigger step up in that moment than it was me getting on the Contender Series. Like that didn't feel like a massive step up because I knew 100% that I was ready for that level. When I was coming up against Blake Donnelly, I respected him so much. I was like, all right, this is going to be a tough fight. That moment then was, that was a really special moment for me.
No, one of a lot of special moments, man. And yeah, I would agree. That is definitely the pivotal moment in your career where it changed. I don't think changed a lot of perceptions because obviously people that knew you so well within the Perth, Western Australian MMA community knew what you're all about. Obviously, Eternal knew what they were all about because they put you in a title fight at 3-1. But it certainly opened a lot of people's eyes to this guy's the real deal. And you didn't look back since, man. Just went on an absolute tear. You did everything possible in your journey to the UFC in terms of showing what you can do, both with the knockouts, with your hands, with your feet, on the ground with the submissions, the wrestling, like everything that you just put together so well. Like you've shown the complete package on this journey, like not just knocking out people in 30 seconds and going to the UFC. Like you've shown that you can do everything across, a round with a knockout, with a submission, that you can go 5 rounds and show off the cardio and just show the mental, like the IQ and the maturity so young in your game. You've given everyone here so many fond memories, man, and everyone from Eternal MMA is behind you. A lot of fans in Perth, Western Australia behind you, of course. Soon, a lot of the rest of the country is going to know your name, man, when you make your debut at UFC 312. So couldn't be happy for you, brother. I wish you all the best. As always, thank you so much for your time here on the podcast. I would love to have you back here again when you get the job done, brother, because it's always an absolute pleasure to talk to you. So all the best, man, and we'll see you on the other side.
Yeah. Thanks, Luke. It's a pleasure for me as well. I'm happy to come on anytime. Honestly.
Love it, brother. Thank you very much.
Thank you.